You call your cat's name. Its ear swivels toward you. Its eyes lock onto yours. Then it looks away, licks a paw, and goes right back to ignoring you completely. Dog owners never deal with this. Call a dog's name and it comes running, tail going, whole body invested. Cats hear you, clearly register you, and then choose something else entirely. For years, everyone assumed this meant cats simply weren't smart enough to connect a sound to their own identity. The actual research says the opposite, and it changes how you should read every single one of those ear twitches from now on. The first real scientific evidence came in 2019, published in the journal Scientific Reports, led by animal behaviorist Atsuko Saito at Sophia University in Tokyo. Her team ran experiments on 78 cats, some from ordinary households and some from cat-cafes, businesses where visitors pay to interact with resident felines. The method itself was clever. Researchers had owners repeat 4 words that sounded similar in length and rhythm to the cat's actual name, over and over, until the cat grew bored and stopped reacting entirely. Then, without warning, the owner said the cat's real name. This technique, called habituation-dishabituation, works on a simple principle. If a brain treats 2 sounds as identical, it stops reacting to both once it's bored of one. If the brain treats them as genuinely different, something distinct happens the moment the real signal shows up. Something distinct did happen. Cats had grown visibly less responsive to each successive filler word, but the moment their actual name played, most of them reacted more strongly than they had to the previous word in the sequence. That gap only appears if a cat's brain has filed its own name into a completely separate category from random background noise. Felines moved their ears, heads, and tails noticeably more upon hearing their names compared to hearing similar sounding words. The response never looked dramatic. No cat leapt off the couch in excitement. Most cats reacted through what researchers called orienting behavior, a simple ear or head movement, while fewer than 10% went further and vocalized, moved their tail, or actually changed location. Subtle, yes, but subtle isn't the same as absent, and subtle isn't the same as ignorant. So the science settles the core question fast. Cats know their names. The far more interesting question is why they so rarely act like it. Saito herself offered the most direct explanation available. She suspects cats associate the sound of their name with specific outcomes, rewards in some situations, and unwanted experiences in others, rather than treating the name as a pure identity marker the way a human would. A dog hears its name, and in most households, that sound has been paired almost exclusively with walks, treats, and play. A cat's history with its own name runs far messier. Sometimes the name precedes dinner. Sometimes it precedes a trip to the vet, a nail trim, or getting shoved into a carrier. When calling a cat's name rarely leads anywhere rewarding or reliably precedes something unpleasant, cats develop what looks exactly like selective hearing and functionally behaves like it too. That's not defiance. That's a cost-benefit calculation running quietly underneath the fur, and it's a remarkably rational one. There's a second layer to this that has nothing to do with memory and everything to do with basic biology. Cats rely far more heavily on visual and olfactory signals for social information than on auditory cues, which makes any kind of vocal name response inherently less central to their nature compared to a more vocally driven species like dogs or humans. Dogs evolved for thousands of years working directly alongside humans, reading tone of voice and responding to verbal commands as a core survival skill. Cats domesticated themselves on a completely different track, largely around solving their own problem, rodent control, with minimal direct human instruction required. A dog's whole communication toolkit centers on sound. A cat's centers on scent marking, body posture, and visual cues like slow blinking or tail position. Calling a cat's name is, biologically speaking, closer to speaking a second language it understands, but never needed to prioritize. Voice recognition adds another twist entirely. This isn't just about the word itself, it's about who's saying it. Neuroimaging studies show a cat's temporal cortex, the brain region responsible for processing sound, activates specifically for familiar human voices, and cats can distinguish between different speakers, associating particular vocal patterns with particular people. A 2013 study involving 20 cats specifically tested whether felines could recognize their own caregivers purely by voice, with no visual cues present at all, and found that they could. That explains a pattern almost every every cat owner has noticed without realizing what it meant. Your cat might swivel an ear the instant you call, while completely ignoring a house guest saying the exact same name in the exact same room. It's not that the cat doesn't recognize the word. It's that the cat has filed you specifically as the person whose voice carries meaning. Tone matters just as much as identity. Cats pay closer attention to a caregiver's voice than a stranger's, and research shows cats can interpret emotional meaning layered inside human vocalizations, not just the literal words themselves. Cats respond best to higher-pitched voices, similar to the tones cats use with each other, and a name delivered with rising intonation at the end. Almost like a question tends to grab attention more effectively than a flat, commanding tone. Many owners unconsciously speak to cats in a distinct sing-song register, reserved specifically for the cat, and once that particular tone gets paired repeatedly with food or affection, the tone itself becomes part of what the cat is actually listening for, layered on top of the name. Call your cat's name in your normal speaking voice, and you may be missing the exact acoustic signature your cat has learned to associate with something good actually happening next. Context shapes the response just as heavily as tone does. Cats build their understanding of the world through pattern recognition, learning to associate the sound of their name with specific experiences, feeding time, playtime, particular tones of voice, rather than treating the name as an abstract label with fixed meaning on its own. A cat mid-hunt, stalking a toy, or genuinely fixated on something in the room has effectively deprioritized every incoming signal that doesn't relate to the task directly in front of it. That's not disobedience. Every hunting animal on the planet does exactly this, tuning out anything that isn't immediately relevant to whatever currently holds its focus. Cats living in multi-cat households have even shown the ability to distinguish their own name, specifically from the names of other cats in the home. Evidence the discrimination running underneath all of this goes well beyond simply detecting a generic human sound aimed in their direction. None of this means every subtle response looks the same, or means the same thing every time. Excite name Ashk Pet MD veterinary behaviorist Lisa Radosta notes that a cat turning its head or orienting its body toward you counts as clear evidence of name recognition, even without any other visible reaction. //sight. A slow blink after hearing a name, prolonged eye contact, a small shift in body position, or a single flick of the tail can all function as acknowledgement, delivered in a register built for quiet communication rather than an enthusiastic, attention-grabbing response. Cats aren't withholding a reaction. They're delivering one in a completely different dialect than the one dog owners have learned to expect, and most humans simply never learned to read it. Put all of this together and the picture flips entirely. That moment when your cat hears its name, glances over, and looks away again isn't rejection, and it isn't proof of feline stupidity or spite. It's a fully functioning brain running a quick, honest calculation. I heard you. I know that sound belongs to me, and right now, nothing about this situation is worth interrupting what I'm already doing. Your cat isn't ignoring you. Your cat already answered you in the only language it ever agreed to use, and simply decided the conversation didn't need to go any further than that.